If industry is not able to realize the value of its sugar, at least at the cost of production, how do you think the industry is going to pay to the farmer on time? See, the government has been very supportive of this. Only that we have not seen the action. See, if you talk about the sugar industry, I would not say we need more players. I believe
Already crowded,
it's already crowded.
like red
तो
rot.
पिछले कुछ सालों में हमने देखा कि रेड रॉट से इसको बहुत अफेक्ट हो रहा है. द मेन प्रॉब्लम विल बी सॉल्व्ड ओनली व्हेन यू हैव इंक्रीज इन द कंजम्पशन ऑफ इथेनॉल एंड समवेयर वी एज अ कंट्री मिस्ड द बस. यस, द इंडस्ट्री इज फीलिंग इट. It could be a very big problem. Definitely, mill owners are under lot of
Pressure.
strain in terms of revenue realization. बहुत कुछ लोगों को ऐसा लगता है कि कुछ सेंसेशन क्रिएट कर लेंगे तो बहुत लोग रील देखेंगे. ठीक है, व्हाट वी आर कोटिंग शुड नॉट बी आउट ऑफ कॉन्टेक्स्ट.
Hello everyone. Well, today we are sitting here discussing a very important agro commodity, something that we use on a daily basis in our morning and evening teas and coffees. But behind that particular agro commodity that I'm talking about is a very complex industry. I guess you guessed it right, it's sugar. Well, sugar, the industry is grappling with policy complications. There are many policy contradictions involved in terms of climate pressures, farmers' struggles, rising financial stress across the value chain. To discuss more about the challenges that the sugar cane and sugar industry is facing at the moment, we have a very special guest with us. He is Mr. Deepak Ballani. Mr. Deepak Ballani is Director General ISMA. ISMA stands for India Sugar and Bioenergy Manufacturers Association. So, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Ashish, for having me in your show.
I'm coming straight to the question that the government of India has banned the sugar exports, and until September, you may correct me. So, what do you think? What would be the reason behind this? Because earlier this year we see them opening the market in terms of exports is something around 10 lakh tons, if I'm not wrong. What does it mean, sir? Does it mean that our sweets will be getting pricier? Does it also mean the step that they have taken that we are losing on the production? This time we are producing less.
See, there are a few dynamics behind this. And I believe that the reason behind this decision, if you remember, in October last year, the government allowed the export of almost 15 lakh tons. And that was based on the estimates that time, when almost everyone, including ISMA, estimated a higher crop. But unfortunately, because of the lower yields in Maharashtra and Karnataka, we have seen a bit downward revision in terms of the crop is concerned. So, at government's first priority is to make sure that we have enough availability of sugar for the domestic consumption, followed by the diversion to ethanol. So, to maintain a healthy closing stock and precisely to make sure that the prices in the domestic market remain stable and not really escalate, government has taken this decision to prohibit further exports. Having said that, almost 7.5 lakh tons was already exported. And in terms of the situation in international market, we were anyway not hoping that it would have gone more than 8.5 lakh tons. So primarily, I don't think it has any major negative effect on the industry. But primarily, I feel that government could have been more liberal. At least the contracts which have already have been signed could have been allowed.
Isn't it hinting towards that we are producing less this time?
No, we are not producing less. If you compare with the last year, last year we only produced almost 262 lakh tons of sugar. This time the net sugar production is going to be around 280 lakh tons.
Mr. Ballani, when we started the season, in fact, I was in one of the press conferences that you people hosted. the figure at that time was something around 345 lakh tons, something around that. Now, the April figures by the last one that you people have issued, it says that you are standing at something around 275 lakh tons. And most of the mills are closed. If we talk about the major sugarcane producing regions of Karnataka, we name it Uttar Pradesh and Maharashtra, that means we would be something around 280 to 85 lakh tons in that respect. So isn't it happening for the first time in the country, Mr. Ballani, that we are producing less than what we generally consume in the country?
No, if you talk about the consumption for this year will be around 280 lakh tons. And we will produce almost the same amount of sugar. So we are not going to produce more than what we consume. So it is almost the same. And even in past, in general, in last 1 decade, we have produced more than what we can consume. Perhaps, as I earlier said, the first priority of the government and the industry is to cater to our domestic consumption, followed by the ethanol diversion. And only after the ethanol diversion, if the sugar is left, then we export. So export always comes as a third priority. Example, ethanol is also important, which we can talk later on. But having said that, primarily in July, when we came out with the first preliminary estimate and followed by an advanced estimate, the estimate was slightly higher, as you very rightly said. It was around 34 million tons. But that also included almost 4 million tons of diversion to ethanol. So net sugar production estimate was almost 30 million, which now has been revised to 28 million, almost 2 million lower than the earlier estimate. And that is because, as I said, because of the lower yields in Maharashtra and Karnataka, the production which we are expecting there has come down. And that really has a lot of reasons. You must understand that the sugar cane is a 12 months crop, and in Maharashtra, because of Hatsali, sometimes it is also 18 months crop. So the variability in terms of parameter which affects sugarcane crop is much higher than those crops which have around 3 to 4 months of life. So that is why, because of so much of variability, sometimes because the rains are very scattered, you have to also see the sunlight days. Lot of parameters affect the yield, and because of the early flowering in Maharashtra in early January, the yields got affected, and that is why we saw the lower production. So, but even then, I think we all, as I said, we have a healthy stock. There's absolutely nothing to worry. We'll be closing with a decent stock this year.
Mr. Ballani, coming to the next announcement that was made last week, and it is with respect to the FRP, fair and remunerative price. And the price has been increased by rupees 10. Last year it was 355, and this time it's 365. That's increased. But when I talk to the farmers, they say it's not adequate enough, because even the harvesting and the transportation costs that are incurred have increased manifold. On the one hand, industry is saying that it is fine that FRP has been increased because it will help the farmers, but industry is also saying that MSP, that is minimum selling price, that has not been increased, that is stagnant for some past years now. Along with that, ethanol prices are also stagnant. On the one hand, when farmers are also not happy, and on the other side, we see industry complaining about MSP and ethanol prices. Then, sir, I want to know, Mr. Ballani, what exactly has the government done with the FRP when it has increased rupees 10 by the price by rupees 10? It's not helping the industry, at least what the industry says, also not the farmers, what the farmers say.
See, let us understand the fundamental of this. Ashish, how the government decides how much has to be increased. So there is a institution called CACP, which analyzes the cost of agriculture. That is called A2 plus FL cost. The cost of growing the crop, also the fertilizer, other cost which actually goes into it. And every year it comes with a recommendation how much FRP has to be increased to compensate for the increase in the cost of production of crop. Last year it was 15 rupees per quintal. This time it has been increased by 10 rupees, which is from 355 to 365 rupees per quintal. Now that is the recommendation of CSCP based on the cost of production, I feel it is appropriate. Every year it is increasing. I must tell you here, in a lighter note, that we did some analysis. In the entire world, India pays for its sugarcane the highest amount of money to the farmer.
Okay.
And it has the lowest cost of sugar in the world. So you understand, we are only the processors. Main feedstock is sugarcane. We take the sugarcane from farmer, we process, we make the sugar. We are buying the highest cost feedstock, but our sugar prices are lowest in the world.
That means industry is struggling.
So industry is definitely struggling. You
And
know
how
about
is the
it already.
business viable, sir?
So now coming to that. So first of all, let us try to say that it is in the interest of farmer. We have welcomed it. That yes, we welcome the increase in the FRP because ultimately they are the backbone. Farmer is the backbone of our country. Coming to the sugar side, this is a continuous struggle and challenge of the sugar mill. We have to cater to the entire ecosystem. Sugar mill plays such an important role in the rural prosperity of the country. We have almost 550 mills. Almost all the mills are in the rural areas. So it plays a huge role in terms of bettering or improving the rural economy, rural infrastructure. We so many farmers, I earlier said almost 5.5 crore farmer and families depend on the sugar industry. So we have to take care of everybody. There is a mandate that in 14 days we have to pay to the farmer. We are bound by the law to pay to the farmers on time. So if industry is not able to realize the value of its sugar, at least at the cost of production, how do you think the industry is going to pay to the farmer on time? Where will it generate the revenue from? There is a huge gap between the ex-mill price and actually the cost of production. With 365, the cost of production alone for sugar will be around 42 rupees. Now, where is my ex-mill price? In Maharashtra, in December, January, the cost went to almost 35 rupees, 36 rupees a kilo. 6 rupees gap between the ex-mill price and the cost of production. And this is pure loss. Even today, Maharashtra is around 39 rupees with still 3 rupees loss. Somewhere this has to be addressed. And that is why your question on MSP of sugar. When the minimum selling price of sugar at 31 was notified way back in 2019. And after that, the FRP has gone up by almost 30%. But there has been no corresponding increase in the MSP of sugar.
I want to understand, sir, do you think the overall policy, the sugarcane and the sugar policy that exists in the country, is it enough to incentivize the sugarcane cultivation if we talk about the farmers? And also, is it good enough for the processors and the mills? Apart from the MSP and the ethanol prices that are being stagnant for so many years now, do you think the overall policy still holds some ground and is supportive enough for the new players to come in?
See, if you talk about the sugar industry, I would not say we need more players. I believe
Already crowded?
it's already crowded. We have to also see because there are various facets of it.
Like what?
Sugar alone is not a very viable commodity.
Okay.
The ethanol program only came up because of the cyclic problem the industry was facing. So that gave another revenue realization for the ethanol which we made. So very rightly, it is bit crowded. See, we have to also see that we have adequate production, adequate consumption. For example, today we have to have a proper balance between the ethanol and the sugar. Otherwise, if we have too much of sugar in the country, then the prices also gets depressed. And ethanol program primarily was launched because of this, to help the sugar industry in terms of coming out with the cyclic challenges it used to face. So that is why today we have around 550 mills. We are producing enough sugar so that we consume domestically. We also have enough ethanol to divert to ethanol so that some sugar can be sacrificed and whatever is left is also exported. This year we saw that even globally we had surplus. So we almost for 3 to 4 months, we saw that there was no international parity. Although we wanted to export, but we couldn't export because there was no adequate international pricing. So a lot of facets and parameters are there. So at the moment, it is very important to strengthen the industry in terms of revenue realization in the country. And later on, if we reach to that level where we require more ethanol, we have more area where we can have sugarcane, or we have better varieties, we can have better yields. So that way we can really work on that. And once we have more sugarcane, more mills can come then.
Are India's sugar recovery rates uneven? Generally, when we see on the ground, the kind of varieties are low yielding varieties. I got some details in front of me. The variety CO0238, it's susceptible to red rot. Of course, new options are coming. ICR is coming up with the new options. But first of all, do you acknowledge the fact that the sugar recovery rate that we have in India is on the lower side? We can work on that at least.
See, there are two things. One is the sugar recovery. That means how much amount of sucrose is there.
Right.
And then there's the yield.
Right.
So both the parameters are very important. जैसे कि अभी हमारा FRP is based on 10.25 recovery.
Right.
Now recoveries also vary depending on the variety. As you very rightly said, 238, which was basically a tropical or subtropical variety, you know what was a wonder variety. ये ऐसी variety थी जो किसान आंख बंद करके प्लांट करता था, और इसकी वजह से आपने देखा there was an exponential production of sugar because of 238. लेकिन eventually too much of overuse of the variety, you know, made it more susceptible to the disease.
Like red rot.
तो पिछले कुछ सालों में हमने देखा कि red rot से इसको बहुत अफेक्ट हो रहा है. तो now that variety is replaced by other varieties. Now variety, as a very right question you asked, because variety is extremely important from the farmer's income perspective and also for the sugar industry. उसके लिए ISMA ने भी पिछले 3 साल में देखिए एक इंस्टीट्यूट है शुगर केन ब्रीडिंग इंस्टीट्यूट कोयम्बटूर, जहाँ नई वैरायटीज आती हैं, उसका टेस्ट करना, उसका ट्रायल करना फील्ड लेवल पे. सो ISMA started 3 years back trial of 28 varieties in both tropical and subtropical region, almost with 30 mills across the country. And I'm very happy to say that after 3 years of trial, there are 2 varieties which are coming up almost similar or slightly better than 238. एक है CO20016 and another is CO21012. Most likely 20016 will be put up in the committee to approve the variety this year.
Okay.
And maybe will be available for next year planting. That will have lot of positive impact on the yield and recovery. Having said that, देखिए सबसे इम्पोर्टेंट ये है कि नई वैरायटी आए, अच्छी yield आए, उसके लिए हम लोग क्या कर रहे हैं.
Just to set the context for the ethanol discussion, back in 2021, we saw when the ethanol blending program was just taking roots, we saw that 131 new projects came up, and all these was in the greenfield category of ethanol projects. There were no brownfield projects, and the government had divided the regions in terms of 2 parts. One was with surplus and the surplus ethanol capacity, like UP, Karnataka, Maharashtra, and the other one was the Bihar and other such states which were in deficit. And there was a clause for 60% mandatory buying by the OMCs from these surplus regions. And the 40%, what was the balance was, these LTO signatories would be given the preference in terms of buying. Few years later, Ministry of Cooperation was formed, and ethanol plants established in the cooperative sector were given preference. Then came the 60%, then the 40%. But with time, the things changed, and the formula changed completely, and we saw the cooperatives, and then we saw the LTOAs with the 60% capacity, and the 40% somehow missed the bus that time. Lot of money of the public sector banks is also involved. Something around rupees 40,000 crore in total for all the banks is involved. So when we started with the ecosystem or blending program, Sugar as a feedstock had allocation of something around over 70%. You would agree to that. And now we see it coming down to 20 to 28%. So what exactly is happening, sir? When sugar mills were promised big things earlier, why the things are completely changing now?
Let us put everything in the right perspective, in the right sequence. The blending program started way back in 2014. Till 2018, only about 1.5% of blending was achieved. It was only after the government came up with the national policy and the biofuel, and also Niti Aayog came out with the ethanol blending roadmap, which said that there has to be a proper allocation of ethanol. And also that time the sugar industry was primarily facing a lot of cyclic issues. So in order to maintain a healthy balance and to see that some revenue is realized from ethanol, the ethanol blending program was launched with the primary feedstock as sugarcane. Even 2018, when Niti Aayog came out with the ethanol blending program, it very clearly said that by 2025, when India will achieve 20% ethanol blending, the sugar industry will at least give 55% of the ethanol. After that, you very rightly said, there was a modality of allocation which was based on the surplus and deficit states. And they also signed a lot of long-term offtake agreements. And that led to a lot of situation which was not really good for the industry, because it also created a lot of anomalies. Ultimately, what happened that because there was too much of capacity is created and the consumption didn't grow, a lot of problems started. So, in terms of allocation, there is a lot of issues. Even this year, sugar industry, as you rightly said, only got around 28% of allocation. So even for the sugar industry, our entire distilleries on the sugar industry are working at a 40% capacity. So the problem is for everybody. Either it is the DEP or it is the sugar industry or a grain non-DEP. The problem is alike. Everyone is facing the same problem of underutilization, because today we have almost a capacity of 2000 crore litre, both sugar and grain. But my capacity utilization is only 1100 crore because E20 can only take 1100 crore.
Right.
So let us understand the fundamental problem. There are various problems, as you rightly said, in terms of the way allocation has been done or whatever. That has to be rectified. I don't say that has not to be rectified. That has to be made properly, fair and transparent. But the main problem will be solved only when you have increase in the consumption of ethanol. And somewhere we as a country missed the bus.
We missed the bus.
I believe, we knew that we are going to achieve E20 by 2025. We could have come out with a roadmap at least 2 years or 3 years before that, yes, we are going to achieve 20% ethanol road blending in 2025. Government is approving all the ethanol plants. The IEMs are being given by the government. Very well knew that we are going to have a capacity of almost 2000 crore litre. But as I said, the problem is of the consumption. We could have come out with a roadmap beyond E20 at least 2 years back, so that the planning of consumption increase could have been done. But now, suddenly we are facing a big problem.
Right.
So much of overcapacity and so less consumption, so much of investment by the industry. 40,000 crore, you just said we've invested. We are not getting the realization of that revenue we have invested. So I believe first and foremost is to now see that the consumption increases. That is where it will give comfort to the entire industry, whether it is grain, DEP, sugar, anybody. And I'm very happy that for last 3 months, since this West Asia crisis unfortunately has started, the governments across the board have realized that the dependence on the imported crude is not in the interest of any country. And when we have, as India, we have so much of feedstock, we have so much of ethanol capacity, had we used more ethanol for our blending, I think the situation could have been much better. See, the Honorable Prime Minister himself in the Parliament said that because of the E20 roadmap, we are now importing almost 4.5 crore barrel less. So I think we will have to very seriously work on increasing the consumption to have a fair allocation. Having said that, sugar is a very important aspect. See, sugarcane ethanol, as I said, is a backbone of the entire ethanol program.
number 40,000 crore. Do you think we have some NPAs coming up, shaping up somewhere in the banking system?
We could have. Because you see what is happening.
See, why I'm saying is because still what you're saying, we should have come at least 2 years back with a proper roadmap. But still it will take time. What the government is currently saying that E30, E85 or complete fuels, flex fuel, because that would also need infrastructure, and also the automotive players would be should be ready for that. But it will take some years if you agree to that. And within that period, the kind of loans that we are seeing, don't you think, honestly speaking, of course there's a problem somewhere? You're feeling the heat?
Yes, the industry is feeling it. It could be a very big problem. See, the problem is not only allocation. The problem is also the ethanol pricing.
Exactly.
Let us try to also understand that aspect. We should not ignore that aspect. It was very clearly mandated way back in 2018 that the prices will be administered, and whenever there would be an increase in FRP, there would be a corresponding increase in the cost of the ethanol. Why we are saying that? Because the cost of production of ethanol, 75% of cost is the cost of the feedstock. Now, in case of sugarcane, the feedstock prices are being decided by the government, that is FRP. So, when the government is increasing my feedstock prices, there has to be a corresponding increase in the cost of production or the price of our ethanol from sugarcane feedstock. Unfortunately, since 2022-23, the FRP has gone up by almost 20%, but the cost of sugarcane juice, ethanol and B-heavy molasses have not been increased. That is also putting a lot of pressure on the economic viability of our mills. So yes, this is definitely going to put a lot of pressure in terms of viability. There could be some of the distilleries, mills could be in a very big economic problem going forward. I believe government has to take care of both allocation in terms of consumption, adequate allocation, and the pricing. Only then the industry will survive properly. Otherwise, there will be a very big problem in future.
Just coming back to the 40,000 crore questions, the other thing is the value of sugar stocks which are pledged against loans has remained almost static, almost at rupees 31 per kg. What we are saying is since February 2019, sir. Do you think this will impact the areas, the sugarcane areas, to the farmers?
Maybe yes. We already seeing that.
What is happening on the ground in terms of areas?
Areas are slightly building up.
They're building up
in Maharashtra.
That's also a warning signal.
So that is definitely a big problem.
So how you are tackling that?
The borrowing is increasing by the mills. And as you very rightly said, the pledge loan remains static. So that is also putting a lot of pressure on the mills.
So in total, we can say, sir, the mill owners are under kind of
definitely mill owners are under a lot of strain in terms of revenue realization. So something has to be done, at least in the terms of revising the MSP, revising the ethanol prices, and the allocation of ethanol. I think these are the three drivers which needs to be rectified so that the industry is in the green.
Okay. So coming to the other part, when we're talking about the E20, E30, E85 blending programs, sir, how ready we are for it, and what are the structural challenges that you see coming up? किस तरह के challenges रहेंगे? अगर आप फीड स्टॉक शुगर केन हो या मेज हो या राइस हो, आपको लगता है कि ये कम से कम 2-3 चीज़ें जिन पे हमको काम करना चाहिए या इस तरह के challenges रह सकते हैं?
Even today we already have the capacity of 2000 crore liter. As I said, almost 1100 crore liter is being used. 300 crore liter is being used for my industrial use. But even after that, the capacity unutilized is almost 600 crore liter. If you take about E85, now E85 interestingly will require a lot of drivers to work parallelly. The car has to be launched. The fuel prices, E85 का fuel prices, normal फ्यूल से थोड़ा कम होना चाहिए क्योंकि उसमें तो माइलेज थोड़ी कॉम्प्रोमाइज होगी, तो उसमें कॉस्ट को भी कॉम्पनसेट करना पड़ेगा. तो कंज्यूमर के लिए E85 की कॉस्ट थोड़ा कम होना चाहिए नॉर्मल फ्यूल से. अब गाड़ी भी आ गई, फ्यूल भी सस्ता हो गया. फिर अब हमको देखना है कि आइस इंजन है. अब 2 सिनेरियोज हैं. वन इज दैट गवर्नमेंट मैंडेट्स दैट एवरी आइस इंजन फ्रॉम 2027 विल बी अ फ्लेक्स इंजन, बिकॉज अल्टीमेटली फ्लेक्स इंजन होता क्या है? फ्लेक्स इंजन इज अ बिट मॉडिफाइड वर्जन ऑफ आइस इंजन, ठीक है, जो कि एनी ब्लेंड, इट कैन टेक एनी ब्लेंड फ्रॉम E0 to E100. फ्लेक्सिबिलिटी पूरी रहती है।
लेकिन अभी की समय की बात की जाए तो सर, वी आर नॉट, इंडिया इज नॉट इवन E20 compliant fully in terms of the vehicles. When we are talking about the E30 या E85, we are totally इथेनॉल कहाँ से, उसके तो बहुत ज़्यादा इन्वेस्टमेंट। और
नहीं, इस पे इन्वेस्टमेंट क्या है, आप देखो ना, E85 के लिए फ्लेक्स कार चाहिए। नाउ फ्लेक्स कार जितनी भी OEMs हैं, दे आर रेडी विद द फ्लेक्स कार्स। पिछले साल भारत मोबिलिटी में, भारत मंडपम में 19 गाड़ियाँ शोकेस की गई थी। दे आर ऑल वेटिंग टू लॉन्च देयर व्हीकल। इसमें कोई फाइट ही नहीं है। जिस दिन पॉलिसी गवर्नमेंट की आ जाएगी, आप देखेंगे कि गाड़ियाँ लॉन्च होनी शुरू हो जाएंगी। प्रॉब्लम कहाँ है? प्रॉब्लम दो है, बिकॉज द फ्लेक्स फ्यूल इज स्लाइटली एक्सपेंसिव देन आइस इंजन। अब इसके ऊपर GST जो है, अब आपको पता है, इट इज़ वेल established that ethanol is a clean fuel. बायोफ्यूल की जो गाड़ियाँ हैं वो क्लीन मोबिलिटी है, EV के बराबर है। EV में तो सिर्फ टेल पाइप, आपने देखा टेल पाइप के ऊपर धुआं कम हो रहा है तो आपको लगा कि बहुत क्लीन है, बट अगर आप पूरी लाइफ साइकिल देखेंगे EVs का, स्कोप 1, स्कोप 2, स्कोप 3, जहाँ बैटरी बन रही है, जहाँ माइनिंग हो रही है, यू विल फील दैट दिस ऑल्सो डज लॉट ऑफ पोल्यूशन, बट द एंटायर लाइफ साइकिल। बट इन केस ऑफ इथेनॉल विच इज अ बायोफ्यूल, इट इज़ अ वेरी कार्बन न्यूट्रल फ्यूल, और ये भी क्लीन मोबिलिटी है।
ओके,
तो व्हेन गवर्नमेंट हैज गिवन अ GST फॉर EVs to 5%, there is absolutely no reason why flex fuel, which is a biofuel, which is a 85% ethanol or 100% ethanol, should also get the same GST treatment of 5%.
Okay.
So that cost of acquisition by the customer is almost at the same level of ICE engine. ये हो जाएगा. The fuel has to be slightly cheaper. Availability of fuel at the dispensing pump, dispensing infrastructure लगेगी. तो ये सारे सिस्टम पे बाय एंड लार्ज काम हो रहा है. Then the CAFE norms. CAFE 3 is still being discussed. It is waiting to be notified, where the CAFE 3 norms has clearly given the recognition to the biofuel in terms of super credits and in terms of VDF, volume degradation factor. That will also encourage a lot of OEMs to start launching their vehicles. Having said that, हम बहुत बड़ी country हैं. It's a huge country. It's a very large country with a very large population. We should always have multiple pathways. For example, हमको EV भी चाहिए, हमको flex fuel भी चाहिए, हमको smart strong hybrids भी चाहिए, हमको CBG भी चाहिए, और कल को green hydrogen आएगा तो green hydrogen भी चाहिए. We have to start working on multiple pathways, और ultimate objective ये होना चाहिए कि as far as possible energy के ऊपर हम किसी भी देश के ऊपर निर्भर ना हो, क्योंकि हमें कल को ऐसी सिचुएशन नहीं चाहिए कि आज वेस्ट एशिया में क्राइसिस है, कल कहीं और क्राइसिस आएगा, आज क्रूड का क्राइसिस है तो कल को कहीं बैटरी की क्राइसिस आ गई तो हम फिर उसी प्रॉब्लम में आ जाए। तो जहाँ तक पॉसिबल है हम अपने एनर्जी पे ही आत्मनिर्भर रहें, और मुझे लगता है सरकार इसमें बहुत सही कदम और सही डायरेक्शन ले रही है।
ठीक है, फिर आखिरी सवाल पर आते हैं। El Nino or disrupted monsoon pattern that we are seeing, how are you seeing the coming years in terms of production for sugarcane? किस तरह से स्ट्रेटेजी चेंजेस आप देख रहे हैं कि सरकार की ओर से भी, स्टेक होल्डर्स की तरफ से भी?
देखिए, एल नीनो का तो प्रेडिक्शन आया है। सो द डिपार्टमेंट, the weather department has given a prediction that there might be an El Nino starting July this year, July, August. We have done some research on that. Last time we had a very strong El Nino was in 2015, when the El Nino started right from February, March. Now, depends on the intensity of El Nino. उसका एक इंटेंसिटी यूनिट होता है, उसके ऊपर काफ़ी डिपेंड करता है कि एल नीनो कितना स्ट्रांग होगा. And primarily or historically we have seen that whenever we had a very strong El Nino in any given year, the effect on the sugar cane crop was not in that year, but more impact was in the subsequent year.
Okay.
This year the planting has already happened. By the time if El Nino sets in, we will be already past our grand growth period of sugar cane. तो थोड़ा बहुत yield के ऊपर असर पड़ सकता है, but by and large बहुत ज़्यादा इम्पैक्ट आने की उम्मीद इस साल नहीं है. बट अगर बहुत स्ट्रॉन्ग एल नीनो आया तो दिस माइट इम्पैक्ट नेक्स्ट ईयर्स क्रॉप.
ओके,
सो उसके लिए वी विल हैव टू सी दैट द एडिक्वेट अरेंजमेंट्स बाय द अथॉरिटीज, बाय द गवर्नमेंट, बाय द मिल्स आर डन, एंड हाउ वी रियली बैलेंस आवर स्टॉक्स so that we are not in any issues. But I believe we will be able to settle in and come out with new varieties also by that time. और अब तो government is also promoting lot of micro irrigation facilities, खासकर महाराष्ट्र और कर्नाटका में, जो कि primarily they are the rain fed areas. वो बहुत बारिश के ऊपर काफ़ी डिपेंडेंस है. So lot of promotion, lot of subsidies are being given by the government to install drip irrigation facilities. I am very happy to say that even sugarcane crops में sugarcane farmer by and large country में काफ़ी drip irrigation की तरफ जा रहे हैं, जो कि उनकी डिपेंडेंस ऑन रेन काफ़ी लिमिट कर देगा. तो बाय द टाइम अगर ये एल नीनो का इम्पैक्ट आता है नेक्स्ट ईयर, अगर हमारा माइक्रो इरिगेशन फैसिलिटी थोड़ा और एक्सपैंड हो जाए और सरकार उसके ऊपर और एम्फेसिस दे पाए, तो हम इम्पैक्ट को कई हद तक कॉम्पनसेट कर सकते हैं.
Thank you, sir. That is all from my side. What Mr. Ballani made it clear was sugar industry stands at a definitive critical crossroads, but a lot of work is being done by the government and by the industry. There are challenges, of course, challenges on the front of pricing of ethanol and MSP, but future may be brighter for the industry.